Thank you all for listening and watching my videos. Please subscribe and like my channel Master Coolitz. Hoping that you will not skip my ads. It's a big help for me by not skipping it. Thank you so much.
In the shadowed corridors of Sun County's ancient mines, Zane Martel, driven by an unquenchable thirst for power, once confronted Lyle Martel with desperate intensity, eager to unearth the mysteries of the heavenly sword technique. The cold, damp walls of the mine seemed to close in around them, echoing Zane Martel's rising desperation with each passing moment.
Tell me about it, Lyle Martel. What's the secret?
But Lyle Martel, as immovable and silent as the ancient stones that framed the dark tunnel, sealed his lips and not a whisper escaped. His eyes, usually calm and collected, now mirrored the fear of a man pressed too far. Zane Martel, observing this shift, felt a pang of guilt wash over him momentarily, but his need to know was far stronger than any fleeting remorse. As the echo of the struggle faded into the somber depths of the mines, Zane Martel stood alone, the weight of his actions heavier than the rock under his feet. With Lyle Martel's fate sealed, Zane Martel hastened back to his dimly lit chamber, his mind racing with both triumph and trepidation. He unfurled a sheepskin roll, ancient and speckled with age. The artifact lay on his wooden table, which was scarred from years of use and illuminated by the flickering dance of candlelight. His eyes, wide with anticipation, scanned the inscriptions eagerly, like a parched traveler upon finding an oasis.
It's indeed the heavenly sword technique.
The ancient script revealed itself slowly under his trembling fingers, the characters glowing faintly in the dim light. He dove into the text, his heart beating in sync with each revealed secret. But as he deciphered the familiar patterns and practices, his excitement soon turned to a sinking disappointment. The technique mirrored exactly what he already knew, nothing more than the elementary stages he'd painstakingly mastered years ago during those long, lonely nights of relentless practice.
Could the real secret not be on this?
His voice was a soft echo in the confines of his chamber, blending with the quiet crackle of the candle's flame. Doubt crept into his mind as he pondered the possibility that he had been chasing a ghost, a legend with no more depth than the paper it was inscribed upon. The walls of the room seemed to close in, whispering of his folly. Anger surged through him like a storm unleashed. Zane Martel's hand, guided by a wave of fury, struck the table in a furious swipe, sending the candles skittering across the surface. Wax splattered, and flames danced dangerously close to the edge of the parchment. As the candles toppled, their flames licking the edge of the sheepskin roll, Zane Martel's heart raced with a sudden dread. The light flickered, casting long, sinister shadows across the walls, which seemed to sway and jeer at his impending doom. But as he lunged to salvage the scroll, a peculiar transformation took place. The edges of the sheepskin, singed by flames, began to curl and blacken, revealing layers beneath that had not been touched by the light for centuries. Zane Martel, his anger momentarily forgotten, watched in awe as a hidden map began to materialize from the ashes of the outer layer. The map was a complex network of lines and symbols, its details emerging as the fire gently grazed the surface.
I knew it wasn't so simple.
The revealed map was not just a mere geographical chart. It was a tapestry of history, laden with secrets guarded fiercely through the ages. Zane Martel's eyes traced the lines that interconnected the known realms with places that had faded into legend. The X that marked the Oxford family's location pulsed as if alive, beckoning him with the promise of untold powers and hidden truths. As he studied the map, Zane Martel felt the weight of history in his hands, and a chill ran down his spine. He was no longer merely a seeker of personal power. He was a custodian of secrets that could alter the very fabric of his world. The air around him thickened with the scent of burnt parchment and the heavy responsibility it carried. With a renewed sense of purpose and a heart heavy with both anticipation and fear, Zane Martell prepared himself for the journey ahead. The map not only charted a course across physical landscapes, but also through the perilous terrains of ancient lore and hidden knowledge. What lay ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but the path was now clear, and his resolve was set. Zane Martell knew that the true test of his quest for the heavenly sword technique was just beginning. Zane Martell cursed his luck as the scroll caught fire. The flames, like quicksilver, crept along the edges of the ancient sheepskin, threatening to consume centuries of wisdom in a heart-stopping instant. But then, as if by some arcane intervention, something miraculous happened. As the edges charred, a hidden map began to reveal itself, shimmering mysteriously beneath the ashes of the surface.
I knew it wasn't so simple.
The revealed map was no ordinary chart. It was a masterpiece of ancient cartography, intricately detailed and exquisitely crafted. It laid bare the lands of the Yarrow Kingdom, a realm steeped in legend and shrouded in the mists of time. A mysterious X marked the location of the Oxford family, entwined with the secrets of the heavenly sword technique, as if the map itself were a key to unlocking the power that Zane Martell so desperately sought.
The Oxford family. What's their role in this?
The map was more than just a guide to physical locations. It was a woven tapestry of political alliances and ancient feuds, hinting at the strategic importance of the Oxford family in the fragile balance of power within the kingdom. Each line and symbol pulsed with the potential to shift the tides of destiny, and Zane Martell felt the weight of his discovery pressing upon him. As Zane Martell traced his fingers over the map, his mind raced with possibilities and plots, the gears of strategy clicking into place. The X marked a place in a pivotal point in his journey, a nexus of potential allies or enemies, hidden knowledge, and untapped power. But before he could plot his next move, a gentle voice echoed through the room, its calmness belying the tension that hung in the air. The voice was smooth and controlled, with an undercurrent of amusement that seemed out of place in the solemnity of the chamber.
Spending 10 days on the Repent Cliff seems a bit harsh, doesn't it, Zane Martell?
Zane Martell, caught off guard, stood swiftly, his actions colored with respect and a trace of fear. The sect leader's presence was commanding, filling the room with an aura of authority and inscrutable knowledge. His robes, the fabric whispering with each step, spoke of a status earned through years of cunning and spiritual mastery. As the sect leader approached, Zane Martell could not help but feel a chill down his spine. The man was not merely a leader, but a seasoned navigator of the treacherous waters of court intrigue and esoteric warfare. His eyes, sharp and penetrating, seemed to look right through Zane Martell, discerning his thoughts and intentions with unsettling ease. The candlelight flickered as if reacting to the increased tension, casting long shadows across the room that danced like specters in the periphery of Zane Martell's vision. The sect leader's face, partially illuminated, was an enigma, his smile benign yet somehow foreboding. Zane Martell, maintaining his composure, met the sect leader's gaze. Though he stood in his own sanctum, Zane Martell felt as though he was trespassing in a realm far beyond his understanding, a place where every truth concealed deeper layers of mystery, and every alliance was but a prelude to possible betrayal. The sect leader's next words, though spoken lightly, carried a weight that pressed uncomfortably on Zane Martell, reminding him that his every action was watched, every decision weighed and measured by those who could easily be friend or foe.
Disciple Zane Martell greets the sect leader.
We're past formalities, aren't we? Tell me, are you resentful for being locked up here?
The atmosphere in the room shifted subtly as the sect leader probed deeper. His voice carried a curious blend of concern and a chilling edge that unnerved Zane Martell. It was clear that this was not merely a casual visit. The stakes were higher, evidenced by the sect leader's next words, which cut through the dimly lit room with surgical precision.
Warriors are defined by their strength, Zane Martell. If you fall because you're weak, then so be it.
Zane Martell felt the weight of these words deeply. They weren't just a reminder of his current predicament, but a stark declaration of his future trials. The sect leader's gaze then shifted, catching sight of the ancient charred map that lay partially exposed on the corner of Zane Martel's desk.
Digging for treasures, are we? What's this about the Oxford family?
The mention of the Oxford family and its possible connections with the nefarious Devil Flame sect sent an involuntary shiver down Zane Martel's spine. The implications were vast and dangerous, not just for him, but for the delicate balance of power within the entire kingdom.
It appears a long-term plan is necessary.
Zane Martel's voice was steady, reflecting his resolve. But internally, he was a maelstrom of thoughts and fears. He disclosed everything to the sect leader, laying bare his discoveries, his theories, and his uncertainties. His hope was that the sect leader would provide some insight or guidance, perhaps even support. But what followed only served to deepen the shroud of mystery surrounding the heavenly swordfinger technique.
The Zhuan skill. Fragments scattered and hidden. Don't chase shadows, Zane Martel. Use your time wisely here.
The sect leader's words were a paradoxical mixture of dismissal and warning. He spoke of the Zhuan skill as if it were both a myth and a tangible threat. His expression remained unreadable, his eyes giving nothing away as he stood to leave, his robes whispering against the stone floor, like the soft hiss of secrets being exchanged in the dark. As the sect leader departed, the room seemed to grow darker, the shadows on the walls lengthening and deepening into an ominous gloom that seemed almost alive. Zane Martel stood alone, his heart pounding in his chest not just from fear, but from the thrill of the unknown.
Is the legacy of great power truly within my reach? Or is it just a shadow of a dream?
Zane Martel's whisper echoed slightly in the cold air of his chamber, a soft sound in the quiet night that felt like a solemn vow. With the mysterious map now in his possession, he knew that his path forward was fraught with peril. The map was not just a piece of ancient parchment, it was a beacon that drew him toward a destiny filled with danger and potential glory. Zane Martel could almost feel the eyes of the past watching him, the great warriors and scholars whose secrets he now chased. He wondered if they had also felt this mix of dread and excitement, this sense of being a small piece in a much larger puzzle. But for all the fear, there was also a fierce joy. The thrill of the chase, the lure of the unknown, and the possibility of uncovering something truly monumental spurred him on. Zane Martel knew that the road ahead would test him in ways he could not yet foresee. With each step he would take towards the Oxford family and the secrets they held, he would be walking a razor's edge between oblivion and immortality. The stakes were monumental, the alliances uncertain, and the enemy's shadowy figures in a game that spanned generations. What lay ahead was a mystery, shrouded in the mists of time and cloaked in danger. Would his journey lead him to the power he so desperately sought? Or would it draw him into a vortex of unforeseen chaos and destruction? With the map clutched tightly in his hand and a world of possibilities at his feet, Zane Martel stepped into the shadows of the coming dawn, his heart set on uncovering the ancient truths that beckoned him forward. The path was set, the map was drawn, and the game was afoot. It was an evening steeped in mystery at the Swordvigar Cliff. Zane Martel stood puzzled, the words of the sect leader echoing in his mind, leaving a trail of intrigue as the leader's figure blurred into the twilight, merging seamlessly with the surroundings until he vanished completely.
Is this the power of the martial spirit realm? What in the world is the Swordvigar Cliff?
Night enveloped the world in silence. At dawn, Zane Martel pushed open the creaking wooden door. His eyes widened in astonishment at the sight that greeted him. The stone wall he had barely noticed yesterday now loomed vast and imposing before him, covered in countless sharp, chaotic sword slashes.
Is this the Swordvigar Cliff the sect leader spoke of? These slashes. They're powerful beyond imagination.
As Zane Martel approached, Each step resonated with the dense sword energy emanating from the marks, slicing through the air, tangible as the cold morning breeze. With each step, the sword vigor seemed to physically assault him, stopping him in his tracks.
Just witnessing these ancient marks terrifies me. What kind of power did the Sword King wield?
Overwhelmed, Zane Martell sat down, his gaze fixed on the varying depths of the sword marks before him. A particular mark caught his eye, its energy nearly palpable, distorting the very space around it. The air around Zane Martell thickened, heavy with ancient power. The chirping of distant birds and the rustling of leaves faded into a hallowed silence, as if nature itself held its breath in reverence of this sacred place. He could feel the weight of countless battles that had been fought here, each slash a testament to a moment of life or death.
These aren't just marks. They're history engraved in stone. Each one tells the story of a battle fierce enough to scar the very earth.
Zane Martell's thoughts drifted to the warriors who had once wielded their swords in this very spot. Who were they? What desperate hopes and fears had driven them to such displays of skill and power? He imagined the Sword King, a figure shrouded in legend, commanding the wind and bending the will of steel to his indomitable spirit.
To stand here where they stood, to touch the echoes of their souls through these marks. It's both humbling and exhilarating.
The cliff seemed to respond to Zane Martell's presence, its dormant energies slowly awakening. A gentle wind arose, whispering secrets of the past, carrying the faint sounds of clashing swords and warrior shouts. It was as though the cliff itself was replaying its memories for Zane Martell, acknowledging his respect in his warrior's heart.
I am not just learning from a place. I am learning from the essence of the greatest sword masters who have ever lived.
Just then, a shadow flickered at the corner of his vision. Startled, Zane Martell turned sharply but saw nothing. The sense of being watched, however, did not fade. Was it the spirit of the Sword King, or merely the trick of the mind in such an overwhelming place? Hours turned into a timeless stretch, with Zane Martell absorbed in studying the depth and form of each sword mark. With every detail he observed, the reality of his surroundings seemed to blur, pulling him deeper into a trance-like state where only the sharp lines of history in his beating heart existed.
I will master the lessons carved into this stone, not just to enhance my own skill, but to connect with the spirits of those who have passed through here. Maybe then, I can truly understand the strength of the Sword King.
As night began to fall, the cliff cast long shadows over Zane Martell, shrouding him in darkness, but for the ethereal glow of the moonlight reflecting off the sharp edges of the stone. It created an otherworldly scene, as if the cliff and Zane Martell were suspended in a realm far removed from the ordinary world. In the chilling silence, the air around Zane Martell grew colder, the energy of the cliff more intense. The marks seemed to glow faintly, imbued with a life force of their own. He felt a surge of energy rising within him, a call to the challenge that lay in mastering the art hidden within these ancient scars.
Tomorrow, I confront these spirits. I will not just observe. I will interact, challenge, and perhaps prevail.
As Zane Martell settled down for the night beside the haunting visage of the Sword Vigor Cliff, the question lingered in the air, heavy with portent. What lessons would the dawn bring, and what trials must he face to earn the right to learn them? As the stars watched silently, the destiny of one man intertwined ever deeper with the legacy of the Sword Vigor Cliff.
Incredible. The true strength of the Sword Vigor Cliff. If only Hugh knew this place was not just a legend.
Hours passed as Zane Martell immersed himself in the study of the marks. The crisp mountain air was laced with the faint scent of pine and earth. a sharp contrast to the sharp metallic tang that seemed to emanate from the ancient sword slashes. Each mark on the cliff was a complex tale of combat, etched into the stone with precision and profound skill, embodying the very essence of battle. Zayn Martell's mind wandered through the stories these marks could tell. Were they triumphs or losses? Desperate struggles or calculated displays of power? Each slash carried the weight of history, and Zayn Martell felt the presence of those ancient warriors around him, their spirits woven into the very air he breathed.
Each stroke is a masterclass in swordsmanship, a lesson waiting to be deciphered. What were you trying to teach, ancient masters?
As the sun began to dip below the horizon, shadows stretched across the Sword Vigor cliff like dark fingers. The atmosphere grew heavy, and it seemed as though the cliff itself was bracing for something momentous. Suddenly, the Sword Vigor at the cliff's edge seemed to awaken, leaping towards him with a ferocity that filled the air with a violent storm of energy. The ground beneath Zayn Martell's feet trembled slightly, as if the very earth was responsive to the clash of ancient energies.
Clash.
Sparks flew as Zayn Martell's needle shadow, a manifestation of his own energy, collided with the formidable sword glow emanating from the cliff. The air crackled with the power of their meeting, electric and intense. The clash was not just of metal but of wills, as Zayn Martell sought to assert his presence, to connect with the ancient power before him. After a fierce and swift exchange, a thunderous boom echoed through the valley, startling a flock of birds into flight. Zayn Martell's needle glow burst into an illusory figure, scattering into fragments of light that faded into the dusk. The sword glow, as if satisfied with its defense, retreated back into the cliff, leaving a resonant hum in the air.
I failed. But what a rush.
Buoyed by his near victory, Zayn Martell's determination solidified. His breathing deepened, pulling in the cool night air as he centered himself for another attempt. The moon cast a silvery glow over the cliff, turning the sword marks into shimmering paths of light. Zayn Martell moved through these illuminated guides, his movements becoming part of the cliff's long history of martial encounters. He spent the night in battle after battle, each clash teaching him more about the depths of sword art. With every encounter, he peeled back layers of his own capability, delving deeper into the reservoirs of his spirit and skill. As the sun rose, casting the first light of dawn over the cliff, an old man in gray, unnoticed, watched from a distance. This figure, almost ghostly in appearance, stood with a stoic grace, his eyes intensely focused on Zayn Martell. With pen and ink in hand, he recorded every detail of Zayn Martell's progress, noting the subtleties of his form and the growth of his spiritual understanding. On the third day, Zayn Martell's persistence paid off. His form refined, his spirit tuned to the vibrations of the cliff. His sword glow, now complete, danced and clashed with the cliff's sword light. This time it was different. The energy was harmonious, synchronized as if Zayn Martell and the cliff had found a common language.
This is it. I am not just facing an opponent, I am learning from a mentor.
With a final resolute shout, Zayn Martell commanded his blow with all the mastery he had gleaned. It cleaved through the opposing sword light, which this time did not resist but yielded, parting like mist under the sun. His sword glow shone brightly, casting a brilliant light over the cliff. The echo of the successful clash rang through the valley, a triumphant note that seemed to affirm Zayn Martell's place among the warriors of old. The old man in gray nodded slightly, his expression one of approval and respect. Zayn Martell, breathing heavily, felt a profound connection to the cliff and the legacies it held. With this newfound mastery, and Zayn Martell was ready to learn. The journey was far from over. It had just begun. As he stood victorious, the rising sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, heralding the dawn of new challenges and new achievements.
Yes, I did it. 3 days here feels like 30 outside this place. I wish I could stay forever.
Filled with new resolve and insight, Zane Martell noticed a change. The once harsh edges of the cliff's sword vigor had softened, a testament to his growing mastery. The atmosphere around the sword vigor cliff felt less hostile, almost welcoming, as if the ancient spirits acknowledged his efforts and prowess. The wind caressed his face gently, carrying whispers of ancient secrets and tales of epic battles fought long ago.
It's incredible. I'm actually taming the sword vigor cliff's power, but time is running out. I can't waste a moment more.
With every passing moment, Zane Martell felt more attuned to the cliff's energies. He moved with a grace and confidence that he hadn't possessed when he first arrived, his steps now guided by an almost instinctual knowledge of the terrain and its mystical properties. The cliff, with its myriad of scars, now seemed like an open book to him, each mark a word, each slash a sentence in the long, winding narrative of the sword vigor cliff. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the jagged landscape, Zane Martell took a moment to reflect on his journey so far. The challenges he had faced, the lessons he had learned, and the invisible threads of fate that seemed to weave him ever deeper into the fabric of this mystical place. His heart swelled with a mix of pride and a poignant longing, the ache of a warrior who knows his path must eventually lead him away from this place of profound connection. As Zane Martell prepares for his next challenge, a question lingers in the air, creating a thick veil of suspense. The twilight brought a chill that seemed to seep into his bones, a reminder that the night at the Sword Vigor Cliff was more than just a passing of time. It was a transition into a world where the lines between the physical and the spiritual blurred. What secrets does the Sword Vigor Cliff hold? And who is the mysterious observer chronicling Zane Martell's journey? As the sword light dims and the night draws close, what awaits Zane Martell in the shadows of the cliff? The cliff seemed to stand as a sentinel, its formidable presence a constant reminder of the countless warriors who had passed its test. The air was thick with the essence of the ancients. Each breath Zane Martell took filled with the dust of legends. It was as if the very ground beneath his feet pulsed with the stories of those who had come before him, each stone a relic, each crevice a holder of secrets. The night was especially quiet, the usual sounds of the wild muted, as if the creatures themselves were holding their breath, watching in silent reverence as Zane Martell explored deeper into the mysteries of the cliff. The moon, nearly full, cast a silvery glow over everything, its light reflecting off the sword marks, making them appear as if newly forged by spectral hands.
These ancient warriors, what were they like? And the Sword King? What drove him to leave such a legacy behind?
His voice was barely a whisper, lost in the vastness of the night, yet it seemed to echo, carried by the wind through the canyons and valleys of the cliff. Can Zane Martell unravel the mysteries of the Sword King before time runs out? Or will the cliff claim another seeker of its secrets? As Zane Martell settled by the edge of the cliff, staring into the depths of the darkness, his silhouette seemed to merge with the ancient stones, a lone figure against the sprawling backdrop of history and mystery. The chill of the night deepened, and with it came a sense of unease. There was much left to discover, and Zane Martell knew that not all secrets were meant to be unearthed. The Sword Vigor Cliff, majestic and mysterious, had stood the test of time, guarding its secrets with a silent, formidable strength. Yet the allure of the unknown called to Zane Martell, a siren song that promised both revelation and danger. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and perhaps new revelations. The journey was far from over. It seemed like it was just beginning. Zane Martell felt a resolve stealing within him as the stars blinked high above, witnesses to the unending quest for knowledge and power. This was not just a test of skill, but a quest for wisdom, a pilgrimage to the heart of the martial path he had chosen. Master Rudolph couldn't believe his eyes. In just 3 days, Zane Martell had broken through the formidable sword force on the opposite side. The old master's dim yellow eyes flickered with amazement.
This Zane Martell. No wonder the sect leader values him so much. How much stronger will he become in 10 days?
Zane stood before the Swordvigor cliff, fully absorbed in its extreme energy. Each strike was sharp and unrelenting, sometimes overpowering his opponent, sometimes being destroyed before he could react. To an onlooker, it might seem monotonous, but to Zane, it was pure joy and satisfaction. Days blurred into nights as he immersed himself, and before he knew it, the 10-day seclusion had ended. A gray figure appeared. It was none other than Master Rudolph. Zane recognized him immediately and pleaded, albeit reluctantly.
Oh, Master Rudolph, you can't be this quick. I think my sins are too heavy. 10 days is too light a punishment. I should be punished more severely. 20 days, no, make it 1 month. I will meditate on the Repent Cliff and wash away my sins.
Despite the old man's expressionless face, he secretly cursed Zane for his shamelessness. Self-inflicted punishment for a month? Meditating on the Swordvigor cliff was a reward, not a punishment. How many disciples had begged for this opportunity, only to be refused by the sect leader?
Zane, enough time. Follow me.
Zane sighed, casting a longing glance back at the cliff.
One day, I will definitely come back again.
They left the Swordvigor cliff and traversed the endless wilderness. The landscape was stark and barren, the sky a pale gray that seemed to stretch on forever. After more than a dozen kilometers, they finally saw signs of life. Zane knew they had left the boundary of Titan Academy and entered the normal area of the Five Spirits sect.
Well, you know the way from here. I'll leave you.
Without waiting for a response, Master Rudolph disappeared in a gust of wind. Zane stood there, memories of the past 10 days replaying in his mind. The joy of fighting against the Swordvigor left by the king's sword on the stone wall was still fresh. He recalled the countless hours spent honing his skills, feeling the energy course through his veins with each successful strike.
I shouldn't have slept. I could have understood more about the Swordvigor. What an unwise move. What an unwise move.
Determined, he headed towards the Dragon Spiral Hall. Since the sect competition, Azure Dragon Academy's status had risen. Disciples from White Wolf Academy, who once bullied them, now showed respect. The change was clear. Whispers of his name followed him. As Zane walked through the bustling streets, he noticed the reverent looks. His mind wandered back to the intense battles of the sect competition, where every move was a calculated risk, every victory hard-earned.
Zane? Zane, is that you?
Uh-huh. One and only?
It's really you. You were too cool in the sect competition. You have a fan.
Zane, do you, have a lover now?
Suddenly a loud shout drew everyone's attention.
Hey everyone, it's Zane in the flesh!
A crowd swarmed around him, men and women alike. Had Zane not squeezed his way out, he would have been stuck there all day. Dodging the throng, he finally reached the Dragon Spiral Hall. The journey felt like an eternity, but he was driven by a sense of purpose. Pushing open the doors, he found Xavier and the 4 elders waiting inside.
I, Zane Martell, have been punished and brought back from the Repent Cliff. Greetings, Master and Elders.
Xavier's face lit up with joy as he hurriedly stood.
Well, it's good to have you back. Life on the Repent Cliff shouldn't be too bad, eh? Even I want to give it a try. You're really lucky.
The elders smiled, their attitudes towards Zane having changed drastically. By relying on Zane, the Azure Dragon Academy had claimed first place.
Zane, not bad. It seems you've gained a lot in the Hall of the Holy Sword.
Indeed, thanks to you, our Azure Dragon Academy has achieved unprecedented results.
Alora made the right choice with you.
All right. Enough teasing, Zane. Now, Zane, we need a moment with you.
With me? Master, what is this about?
There's no rush. We're waiting for someone else.
A delicate but strikingly beautiful man strode through the doors. It was Hugh. He paused, his expression quickly changing to one of jealousy and anger.
Zane, you've come out so soon?
Stepping forward, Hugh addressed Xavier.
Disciple Hugh greets Master.
Xavier nodded in satisfaction, stroking his beard with a smile.
In the sect competition, both of you made great contributions. Now, it's time for something important. The Titan Academy intends to choose a talented disciple from the 4 major cultivation academies. Only one place is rewarded to each academy.
Zane and Hugh exchanged glances, their eyes filled with hostility.
In the entire Azure Dragon Academy, only the 2 of you are qualified, but there is only one place. Only one of you can join the Titan Academy.
Both were shocked. The Titan Academy was shrouded in mystery, known only as the core existence of the Five Spirits sect, housing most of the intermediate level disciples. It was the most powerful entity within the sect. The air grew tense as Zane and Hugh prepared for what was to come next. What trials awaited them? Who would claim the coveted spot at the Titan Academy? The stakes had never been higher, and the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. As the 2 stared each other down, memories of their previous encounters flooded their minds. Zane recalled the fierce rivalry that had developed between them, each encounter a test of skill and will. Hugh's jealousy and animosity were palpable, his eyes burning with a desire to outdo Zane at any cost.
Don't think for a second that this will be easy, Zane. I've been training just as hard.
I wouldn't expect anything less, Hugh. Let's see who truly deserves this spot.
Xavier stepped forward, smiling proudly.
Congratulations, Zane Martell. You've earned your place at the Titan Academy.
The words filled Zane with pride and relief. He had proven himself worthy. As the crowd cheered, he felt a surge of excitement. This was just the beginning of a new journey. The future was uncertain, but Zane was ready to face whatever came next. As he left the arena, the path ahead was fraught with challenges, but he was prepared to meet them head-on.